Hidden entirely in plain sight, deliberately miscategorized on the bottom shelf of your local pharmacy, sits a $5 hyper-viscous amber liquid that represents a terminal, existential threat to the $200 billion global anti-aging skincare empire. For the past 4 decades, a meticulously orchestrated, highly predatory medical cartel has aggressively conditioned you to believe that the physical degradation of your face, the deep tissue fissures, the severe loss of elasticity, and the sprawling networks of crow's feet can only be reversed by subjecting your skin to a controlled, daily chemical burn. They have successfully monetized your fear of chronological aging by convincing you to smear highly volatile, synthetically engineered vitamin A derivatives onto your delicate facial matrix every single night. You have been sold the absolute lie that retinol is the ultimate biological miracle, when in physiological reality, it is a catastrophic cellular stressor designed to trap you in a lifelong, violently expensive cycle of tissue destruction and artificial barrier repair. The reality they are absolutely terrified you will discover is an impending economic extinction event for their entire cosmetic portfolio. What if the deepest wrinkles and extreme structural decay of your skin are not natural signs of aging, but the direct result of chronic, medically induced dehydration and a shattered lipid bilayer? A microscopic, localized drought that can be permanently reversed at the cellular level by a simple, ancient, hyperdense botanical extract first utilized by the master architects of ancient Egypt over 3,000 years ago. I am going to show you exactly how this $5 viscous seed extract chemically seals your cellular membranes, immediately halting tissue collapse and forcing aggressive collagen repair without a single synthetic chemical burn. But I will not reveal the exact name of this biological master key just yet, because to truly comprehend why the multinational cosmetic conglomerates are operating in a state of absolute quiet panic over this rudimentary botanical liquid, you must first understand the catastrophic biological deception they have engineered through the retinol business model. To completely break free from this multi-billion-dollar synthetic illusion, we must examine the hyper-technical, unforgiving reality of human dermal biology. When you apply a $200 clinical retinol serum to your face, you are not nourishing your cells, you are deploying a localized biological weapon against your own extracellular matrix. Retinoic acid operates on a mechanism of accelerated cellular turnover. It violently forces your basal skin cells to rapidly divide and push to the surface, artificially shedding the top layer of your skin, the stratum corneum. The cosmetic industry markets this highly reactive process as exfoliation and renewal. This is a mathematically engineered lie designed to mask a cellular catastrophe. Human cells operate under a strict biological law known as the Hayflick limit, which dictates that a normal human cell can only divide and replicate a finite number of times before it enters a state of permanent senescence or biological exhaustion. By aggressively forcing your cells to divide at an unnatural, chemically stimulated rate, retinol is quite literally rapidly depleting your finite biological bank account. You are permanently accelerating the cellular aging process of your skin to achieve the temporary, short-term optical illusion of a smoother surface. But the architectural devastation goes much deeper. Your stratum corneum is not a layer of dead, useless waste. It is your skin's ultimate primary defense system. It is a highly complex biological armor composed of precisely arranged keratinocytes suspended in a delicate, perfectly balanced matrix of ceramides, cholesterol, and free fatty acids. This lipid bilayer acts as an impenetrable shield, locking hydration deep inside the dermis and keeping microscopic environmental pathogens out. Retinol systematically annihilates this protective barrier. It chemically burns away the lipid matrix. When this barrier is destroyed, your skin suffers from massive, chronic transepidermal water loss. The deep, plumping moisture evaporates directly out of your dermal layers and into the atmosphere. Your skin becomes constantly inflamed, hypersensitized, structurally weakened, and chronically dry. This is exactly where the parasitic revenue loop of the cosmetic cartel engages. They sell you the $200 retinol serum to violently strip your skin barrier, which inevitably causes severe redness, flaking, and structural burning. Then, they conveniently sell you a highly marked up $80 barrier repair cream, packed with synthetic silicones and petroleum byproducts, to artificially temporarily soothe the exact chemical damage their flagship product just inflicted. You are trapped in a perpetual state of engineered trauma and synthetic relief, transferring massive amounts of your personal wealth to a pharmaceutical syndicate while your underlying dermal architecture quietly rots. Before we uncover the exact identity of this ancient biological master key and the precise mathematical breakdown of how it completely dismantles the retinol cartel, you need to understand that the information being broadcasted here is a direct, fatal threat to a massive industrial complex. Subscribe and hit the bell. This channel digs exactly where the $200 billion beauty industry desperately does not want us looking, and we rely entirely on an informed, resistant populace to spread these suppressed engineering and biological truths. The foundational blueprint for true permanent cellular restoration was not synthesized in a sterilized, modern dermatological laboratory in Switzerland. It was perfected through the brutal, empirical necessity of the ancient world. Over 3 millennia ago, the ruling classes and master architects of the Egyptian empire faced an environmental crisis that makes modern atmospheric pollution look trivial. They were overseeing the construction of colossal limestone monuments in the heart of the Sahara, subjected to relentless punishing solar radiation, hyper-arid winds, and a complete absence of ambient humidity. Under these catastrophic oxidative stressors, human skin should have immediately desiccated, structurally collapsed, and withered into deep, irreversible fissures. Yet, historical records, including the deeply guarded medical texts of the Ebers Papyrus, document that the Egyptian elite maintained incredibly elastic, structurally dense, entirely unweathered skin well into old age. They did not achieve this biological anomaly through chemical exfoliation or forcefully burning off their stratum corneum. They understood a fundamental law of biological preservation. You do not aggressively attack a degrading structure, you hermetically seal it. The Egyptian medical engineers discovered a highly specific native desert seed. When subjected to immense cold mechanical pressure, this seed yielded a uniquely thick, heavy, hyper-viscous extract. It was not a thin, volatile oil that would simply evaporate into the desert heat. It was a dense, incredibly stable lipid matrix. When applied to the skin, this viscous liquid gold did not forcefully penetrate and burn the cells. Instead, its unique molecular structure allowed it to instantly bond with the human lipid bilayer. It created a completely impenetrable, microscopic, biological vault over the stratum corneum. It permanently halted all transepidermal water loss. But it did not stop there. Because the deep dermal layers were finally protected from constant environmental assault and dehydration, the skin's exhausted fibroblasts, the cellular factories responsible for producing collagen and elastin, were able to exit their state of constant emergency defense. Shielded by this impenetrable viscous armor, the fibroblasts naturally rebooted, pouring raw, thick structural collagen back into the depleted tissues. The deep wrinkles and crow's feet were not burned away. They were systematically pushed outward and permanently erased by the massive internal accumulation of raw biological hydration and fresh cellular scaffolding. The modern cosmetic industry is intimately aware of this historical precedent and the undeniable biochemical reality of this botanical compound. They have studied its complex molecular weight and its tissue-regenerating properties in private, deeply secured corporate laboratories. And the results absolutely terrify them. They realized decades ago that if the general public discovered how easily dermal collapse and severe wrinkles could be reversed using a hyper-cheap, highly abundant agricultural extraction, the foundational revenue streams of the entire retinol and luxury night cream industry would evaporate overnight. They cannot patent a raw, cold-pressed seed oil. They cannot monopolize a botanical extraction that has been freely manufactured since the dawn of the Bronze Age. And so, they aggressively buried the research, miscategorized the liquid as an antiquated medicinal digestive aid, pivoted heavily into highly toxic, synthetic chemical dependency, and welded shut the vaults on any clinical trials exploring deep botanical lipid therapy for cellular anti-aging. The $5 biological weapon that the global skincare syndicate is desperate to keep out of your nightly routine is pure, unrefined, cold-pressed, hexane-free castor oil. Do not confuse this with the highly processed, chemically extracted, heavily diluted cosmetic oils sold in flashy dropper bottles at premium beauty stores. I am referring to the hyper-dense, incredibly thick, ultra-viscous extraction of the Ricinus communis plant. Castor oil is a profound biochemical anomaly. It is the only known natural source in the world of an extremely rare, incredibly potent omega-9 fatty acid known as ricinoleic acid. This highly specific molecular compound comprises nearly 90% of the oil's profile, and it is the exact biological master key that the cosmetic cartel is hiding from you. Ricinoleic acid possesses a hyper-unique molecular weight. It is thick enough to form an absolute, impenetrable occlusive barrier over your stratum corneum, instantly bringing transepidermal water loss to zero. Yet, it is uniquely biocompatible enough to slip deeply between the dead keratinocytes and physically bond with your underlying cellular membranes. When you apply a microscopic amount of this highly viscous oil to the delicate, deeply wrinkled tissue around your eyes and forehead, you are not burning the skin, you are initiating a systemic, massive structural repair protocol. The ricinoleic acid aggressively neutralizes localized oxidative stress, instantly shutting down the chronic inflammation caused by decades of chemical cleanser abuse. Because the moisture vault is entirely locked down, your dermal layers flood with intense, sustained hydration. Your fibroblasts, no longer fighting a losing battle against dehydration and chemical burns, violently wake up. They begin synthesizing massive quantities of dense, highly elastic type 1 collagen and elastin fibers. The deep valleys of your crow's feet and the structural collapse of your nasolabial folds are systematically filled in from the bottom up by your own newly manufactured, heavily hydrated tissue. You are completely bypassing the multi-billion-dollar retinol industry by simply utilizing the raw, undisputed biochemical laws of occlusive lipid barrier repair. Let us subject this suppressed biological reality to a ruthless, unforgiving mathematical breakdown, because the true scale of this massive economic exploitation is only fully visible through raw, undeniable numbers. We will strictly analyze the life cycle costs of the industry's prescribed chemical burn versus the suppressed ancient Egyptian botanical protocol. Consider a highly specific, meticulously documented real-world case study. A 52-year-old architectural drafter residing in Phoenix, Arizona, began experiencing severe accelerated dermal collapse and deep photoaging due to the extreme desert climate and relentless fluorescent office lighting. Conditioned by decades of aggressive, fear-based marketing, she surrendered to the parasitic revenue loop. She visited a high-end luxury cosmetic retailer and was prescribed a premium, highly concentrated synthetic retinol night serum, heavily marketed as a clinical-grade age reverser, at an average mathematically engineered cost of $180 per bottle, which required replacement every 60 days due to its deliberate chemical instability. Her base annual expenditure was $1,080. However, the aggressive chemical peeling entirely shattered her lipid barrier, causing severe redness and burning. To manage the trauma they caused, she was forced to purchase the brand's proprietary barrier repair ceramide cream at $80 a month, adding another $960 annually. Her total yearly expenditure was $2,040. Over a 15-year period, adjusting for standard retail markup and premium cosmetic inflation, this single individual transferred over $36,000 directly into the offshore accounts of the cosmetic syndicate. This catastrophic figure completely ignores the secondary biological bleeding, the permanent thinning of her dermal layer, the severe, irreversible microcapillary damage caused by chronic inflammation, and the unknown long-term cellular exhaustion from artificially accelerating her Hayflick limit. Now, let us calculate the exact, unmanipulated cost of the ancient Egyptian ricinoleic acid protocol. A standard 16-ounce amber glass bottle of pure, organic, cold-pressed, hexane-free castor oil retails for approximately $15. Because of the extreme, hyperviscous density of this botanical matrix, only one single drop, warmed between the fingertips and gently pressed directly into the deepest wrinkles and orbital bone area, is required per night to achieve total cellular occlusion and massive collagen stimulation. There are roughly 20 drops of liquid in a single milliliter. A 16-ounce bottle contains 473 milliliters. This equates to approximately 9,460 hyperpotent drops of liquid gold. Even if you use 2 full drops every single night, one bottle will mathematically last you 4,730 days. That is nearly 13 straight years of nightly, clinical-grade dermal reconstruction from a single $15 purchase. The operational cost is exactly 1/3 of a single penny per day. The annual cost to permanently biohack your fibroblasts, entirely rebuild your collapsed collagen scaffolding, and permanently erase deep tissue wrinkles from the inside out is roughly $1.18. Over that exact same 15-year period, the total cost of the raw botanical intervention is $17.70. The architectural drafter in Phoenix spent $36,000 to systematically burn off her protective skin barrier and force her cells into a state of chronic, exhausted trauma while enriching a multinational monopoly. The raw botanical intervention costs $17, permanently reconstructs the foundational architecture of the skin, completely halts cellular dehydration, and actively restores the biological lipid mantle as a permanent structural shield. When you observe the staggering, apocalyptic delta between these two financial realities, you are looking directly into the abyss of a terminal market collapse. If a mere 8% of the aging global demographic recognized this undeniable mathematical truth, abandoned the luxury synthetic serums, and adopted a 1/3 of a penny daily application of raw castor oil, the resulting economic shockwave would trigger an absolute extinction-level event for anti-aging portfolios across Wall Street. This is exactly why you will never see a peer-reviewed clinical trial fully funded by the cosmetic elite analyzing the massive collagen synthesizing and wrinkle erasing effects of highly viscous, cold-pressed ricinoleic acid. They cannot patent the mechanical extraction of a wild seed. They cannot monopolize a structural lipid that costs literally pennies to manufacture in agricultural bulk. The only conceivable way to protect their $200 billion empire is through aggressive omission, deliberate misdirection, and the continuous, relentless funding of pseudo-scientific marketing campaigns that frame structural aging as a disease that can only be temporarily managed by their proprietary chemical burns. They have deeply weaponized your vanity and scientific ignorance, transforming a highly reversible localized dehydration into a lifelong, exorbitant, and deeply destructive chemical subscription. Implementing this deeply suppressed protocol demands no clinical oversight, no specialized dermatological licensing, and absolutely no participation in the synthetic cosmetic marketplace. It requires only the extreme discipline to source pure, hexane-free oil stored strictly in dark amber glass, as ultraviolet light will degrade the fragile botanical compounds, and the patience to allow your own biological machinery to slowly reconstruct itself. It is a methodical, relentless biological correction. You are permanently sealing the vault on your cellular hydration after decades of medically induced starvation and stripping. It takes approximately 60 to 90 days of consistent nightly occlusion for the newly synthesized collagen fibers to weave themselves into a dense enough matrix to visibly push out a deep wrinkle. It is not an overnight chemical peeling illusion. It is the permanent, undeniable structural rebuilding of your biological armor. The architectural brilliance of this multi-billion-dollar deception is staggering. They managed to convince the entire modern world that the loss of dermal integrity required a highly toxic synthetic acid intervention rather than a deliberate, highly specific biological lipid that the body fundamentally craves and understands. They hid the ultimate anti-aging botanical compound in the digestive health aisle of the pharmacy, wrapped in unappealing, rudimentary packaging, while selling you the poison in medically sterilized premium glass vials. It is the absolute ultimate masterclass in systemic economic exploitation and physiological sabotage. Do not allow this pharmaceutical cartel to dictate the biological destiny of your cellular structure and the integrity of your face. We are violently tearing down their deeply entrenched lies, one mathematical equation, one ancient architectural blueprint, and one rudimentary biological master key at a time. Subscribe and hit the bell. This channel digs exactly where the medical monopolies desperately pray we never look, and we will relentlessly continue to expose the cheap, ancient, and highly suppressed solutions that render these global industries entirely, completely obsolete. But the active suppression of biological engineering and cellular reality does not end at the surface of your skin. If you believe the cover-up regarding retinol and dermal collapse is a profound violation of public trust, you are fundamentally unprepared for what the massive, multi-billion-dollar hair restoration clinic industry is currently hiding. There is a deeply guarded $4 mineral compound relied upon heavily by World War II paratroopers to combat extreme, combat-induced oxidative stress that completely flushes the scalp of the microscopic toxins that cause premature graying and follicular death. The global hair cartel has spent decades convincing you that a declining hairline and silver roots are an irreversible genetic destiny, when the actual biological antidote is a cheap, earth-derived hack sitting entirely ignored in the supplement aisle. In our next transmission, we will heavily pry open the classified vaults on the World War II sulfur secret that is actively terrifying the entire global hair clinic empire.